Hello everyone, welcome to Dice on Ice. My name is Megan, and tonight we are back with Strahd, which I am so excited about. And this episode 21, is called Paying Dues. We'll get into the recap in just a moment, but I would like to say a big Barovian welcome to our guest, V, the Crafty Moose, who has graciously agreed to grace us with our presence tonight, and I'm so excited to see what further torment she can put on the players. So no, not at all. No. All right. So, a little bit of a recap. You guys decided that you were going to go to the Baron's dinner, and you were going to heed the word of the Vixen, and follow her advice and go with these gowns, which you had found had these teleportation stones in them, and you were going to go. Now, the dinner at the Baron's went just about as good as you'd expect it to have gone. You met the son, Victor, who gave you a little bit of hope that you were going to get out by showing you an unfortunately not fully working teleportation circle. And he did reveal to you all that, in fact, maybe one or maybe more than one people have died from his experimentation on trying to find a way out of Vallaki. You also met the Baroness, who looked Lydia, who looked eerily like Elizabeth Durst. You're the woman that you had met in the death house, who was in fact undead, and that you definitely thought that you had killed. She, however, didn't show any recognition to anything when Fell had asked about Elizabeth Durst. She showed just really no sign of associating it that well. After a while, you decided to go for dinner where you met the Baron, and your biggest fears were true. He was just the worst. He was just as tyrannical and just as insane as you were fearing he would be, as so much so that he was going to show you a performance of sorts right in front of you before dinner, and it was going to be the execution of what he deemed to be 3 people that he felt didn't show as much joy or as much or went against what he had said. You guys didn't have any of that, and you sprung into action, and after a bit of fighting, managed to kill the Baron. And just as you did so, in fact, your plan worked, and the Vixen and all of her lycanthrope people, comrades, came to your rescue and dispatched the rest of the guards. However, you noticed that the Vixen had some strange illness that you could see on her skin in the form of boils that wasn't there before. And if you remember, at the beginning of the last session, I had you guys play through this very odd, almost dreamlike sequence where Eli's altered character, the evil character of Eli, started spreading poison and sickness all over the city. And you see that, though the real Eli has no idea what is happening. He has no memory of that, or actually none of you have any memory of that. This was separate. So with that, you were surrounded by the lycanthropes. Their blades were drawn towards you, and the Vixen steps in. And that is where we are going to begin. You all have some explaining to do. You see, we are... I do not like to be played with. I do not like to be fooled. But it seems as though you have done just that. There have been reports that the four of you have been running amok in Vallaki, but I knew that wasn't true because I knew, or at least I thought that you were at the Baron's dinner. It seems I was correct. But, and she is going to reach into a bag, and she pulls out what you can only see as the head of who looks to be Eli. She kind of drops it in the center of the floor in front of you all. So tell me, how do you explain this?
You're going to have to forgive my confusion, but if you go dropping what looks to be my severed head at my feet, I think you're the one that needs to do some explaining.
There were reports that you, and she looks to you, Eli, had some sort of mask on, and you were throwing these vials everywhere, and it was making people sick. Now, I know these just weren't rumors, because while I was trying to uphold your end, my end of the bargain for you, I was hit with such one of these vials.
Well, as you can clearly see, I'm standing right here before you, my head firmly attached upon my shoulders.
I do see that. So you know nothing about whatever that is running around.
I would think my incredulity would be splayed across my face quite clearly at this moment.
I have seen very good liars.
Have I given you reason to think I'm a liar? Have any of us given you reason to think that we're liars? And I imagine to anybody else looking, you can see that Eli's got his blood up. Partly from just the fray we were just in. Being in the fight. I imagine some of his hair's come loose, kind of hanging down, and because I don't, if I remember correctly, I don't think I ever actually drew my pepper box, but I imagine since they came in, my hand sort of at the small of my back, resting on the handle of it, and yeah, I'm quite red in the face and not happy at being called a liar.
I had hoped that you would not have been, but Listen. You had all shown promise. You had all shown that you were new. You hadn't been corrupted by Vallaki, and I was hopeful that you could help. I'm still hoping that you can. However, I needed help to dispatch of you. And she just kind of pauses and she looks to the head and looks back at Eli. And the woman who you had told me to speak to was more than willing to help. And in payment for helping quell this issue, she has asked to speak with you all. Now, and she's going to nod her head over to one of the people. She did say all of you, and she nods her head over to one of the people in the circle who rushes over to Corla, who is stabilized but unconscious. And she takes this vial and she's going to try and pour it down Corla's throat. Fel, if you allow that.
What does this vial look like there, Megan?
Um, I would think that you guys have seen healing potions enough to know that's the color of it. That's kind of
Okay.
the typical shape of it. It doesn't look green or poisonous or anything like that. It's quite recognizable. I would imagine that healing potions have quite a recognizable color.
Makes sense. Yeah, so I mean, I imagine because Fel had sort of ended sort of straddling Corla, she had been ripping off pieces of her dress to sort of use as bandages. So she would sort of, as quietly as possible, since she is still invisible, sort of move back and let this individual basically feed this healing potion to Corla. Still trying to process, one, what just happened with Baron, and two, the severed Eli head on the ground and all this nonsense that the vixen is revealing right now, trying to be as quiet as possible.
And Corla, you immediately feel life flow back into you as you take your first conscious breaths again after being struck down by Isaac.
She as Corla comes to, you hear a gasp as she brings in breath, and she looks around. Did we get them? And then she sees that there's a bunch of other people. Oh, you are here. This is good. Is it over? Have I missed too much?
We got ourselves a bit of a out of the skillet and into the cooking fire situation possibly brewing here.
What are you meaning? Did Isaac get away?
We've
see
got
that-
other things to worry about, I think.
Corla, if you look around, you see that Isaac is also in the center. He is still alive, and he is kind of on his knees, very bloodied and hurt, but still alive.
What is... Eli, what is this? What are you talking about?
Are you still laying on the ground?
I'm probably sitting at this point.
Still with one hand on the at the small of my back, with my other hand I'll reach out and hold my hand out to you to help you to your feet. And as I do so, I just give a slight tip of my head toward my head on the floor.
Yeah, so I think Corla is, gets up with your aid, and maybe she's brushing off her clothing a little bit, looking around, and then notices your nod towards the head, and then seeing the head, she kind of like maybe recoils from you a bit. What is that? It looks just like you.
Apparently it is. Perhaps. I think we were just about to get some sort of explanation.
Corla, as you were moving and kind of jostling around, would that pendant that you had put on before the dinner, is that out or is it hidden?
I imagine when she fell to the ground that it dislodged and is now visible for sure.
I think as soon as you kind of show yourself, and maybe it's probably even the person who was healing you is going to rush over to the vixen and whisper something in her ear, and she looks over to you, Corla, and she just gives you this knowing nod, and she addresses you. will you vouch for them?
Vouch for them. What do you mean? Are they good people? Yes.
Do you think they had anything to do with the events of this evening that wasn't in the city of the Valaki?
What has gone wrong? No, these people have been with me all night. We've been getting ready for the dinner, and then we're here, and that was quite a mess, but successful, I would say. But no, what has gone wrong in the city?
It seems as though perhaps some very cruel joke, something more sinister. Your people, or people who look like you, they caused much death and destruction in the city. And she kind of points to her face. And many others of my group were victims.
I can tell you with all honesty that it was not these people. They were with me. I would know.
Very well, for you have spoken, friend, and been accepted. She just nods and says a word to you that you do not know. It's in a different language and sounds more like a growl than anything else. Fine. Well, I have taken up enough of your time. I think it is time for you to speak with Lady Watcher. She does not like to wait. Where is... And she kind of is like looking over. There was another one.
I look over at Sean.
I think Jean returns her look, not knowing really what to say.
We're all here. We're all accounted for.
No. There was, half-elf. With you. Do we need to look? Do we need to search?
I think Corla would lean in towards Eli and kind of whisper, "Where's Phil?"
Things got messy during the fight. And I know her. She's taking care of herself.
She is okay.
Well, this will
Certainly
be...
hope so.
This will be a problem, won't it? And she is going to snap her fingers, and immediately another couple of these, the people, will go up the opposite stairs to search for Fel, effectively. Fel, what are you doing?
That is a great question. No, at this point, I imagine just again because so much has happened and she's obviously not used to any of this. She's sort of flattened herself against the wall and she's trying to think what makes the most sense because she, especially when the vixen mentioned Lady Watcher's name, she knows we killed her son, so we're probably not going to be in for a good conversation. Fel is also severely wounded at this point. So I think honestly, she's just going to kind of wait and see how far this goes, and then if certain things happen, if it seems like the party might be, put in chains or attacked or something like that, then she would respond in some way. But for now, she's just going to kind of wait this out and see what the Society of the Golden Wolf members decide to do.
So after a while, they look, and you hear a yell coming from upstairs, a yelp of pain, and this was the corridor from which you all know Victor's little room is. And you see a couple more go up, and you hear what sounds to be kind of a scuffle, some minor explosions, and but eventually, way less than who originally went up there come down, holding Victor on either side of his arms. Well, that is not unexpected. There is no... And you have no idea where she is. The vixen kind of says to any of you. I do feel very bad that you are keeping the Lady Watcher waiting. I do not think that this little game you are playing is going to bode well.
I'm sorry if we've given you the impression that we're playing games. We were fighting for our life moments before you showed up. Things were intense, and we were not necessarily keeping eyes on one another. There is no intended deceit or trickery taking place. I told you I'm not a liar.
As you have said many times. Very well. We will have to assume that she is taken or is dead.
Eli just exchanges a quick look with Sean and Corla, realizing that that's a very real possibility.
All right. You bring Victor and the Baroness and bring them to the Blue Water Inn until we decide what to do with them. You go get the and she gestures to the stage where a now dead or looks to be dead Stanimir and Greta who Corla and Jean and Fell believed to be Strahd lay and sit, a combination of both. Bring them to the medical tent. We will see to their wounds. The rest of you will come with me.
Yeah, and I think at that moment, Fell would sort of, hearing this, especially seeing Victor, who, although he has clearly done some terrible things, he's a kid. She reaches back into that leather sheath that was strapped to her leg, pulls out the Vistani wand, takes a moment. She would actually break her own invisibility by prepping a fireball spell, or what looks like a fireball spell. So I imagine it's kind of like, having like a can of paint dumped over somebody as she just starts to fade back into view. And as this happens, she's speaking, again, breaking her own invisibility. And she says, "No, I don't think that any of us are going anywhere. We are wounded. We were wounded trying to assist you and the people of this city, and you will not touch that boy, and you will not touch that young lady either." And then as she kind of finishes fading into view, you would see at the tip of this Vistani wand, there's this pea-sized ball of teal-colored fire just kind of... And she's pointed it directly at the vixen. She looks pretty battered, though. She looks really rough.
It is nice of you to join us, Fel. But
I think you need to point those weapons somewhere else as well.
If you will forgive me, I will not. I trust that you did not have anything to do with what has happened, but I don't know how you are involved. If not directly, then possibly indirectly.
You heard what Carla said. We were with her the entire night. We could not have done whatever it is you're claiming that we did. And more importantly, we need to rest. And I imagine Phil has like a gash on her arm. Her face is bruised where a great sword handle probably cracked across the face. And she looks torn up. We need to rest. We need to go back to the Church of St. Andrew's. And then I'm sure we will be happy to meet you at the Blue Water Inn, and we can talk about meeting Lady Watcher, but not right now. Do not make me release this spell. I've never actually cast this spell, but I imagine from what I've read, it's sort of like getting hit by a ball of flaming pitch. And while I don't think, and she kind of looks around, because there's a fair number of people here, correct? Society members. While I probably won't be able to, and she staggers a little bit, wavering, probably won't be able to get all of you. I will get most of you. So turn your weapons away and let us go to the damn church.
The vixen strides towards Fel until she is like within a foot from Fel.
As she does that, you just hear this sound of metal against leather, and you hear this shh, and she's going to come face to face with the pepper box. Do not take another step toward her.
Let us go. We are not responsible for whatever it is you think we did.
You do not seem to understand. I am a woman of my word, and I promised the Lady Watcher that I would have you delivered to her. As payment for helping clean up whatever mess and whatever people think, I also do not think it is the most wise decision that you return to the church at this moment. Or make yourself seen unprotected in Vallaki. People are upset.
And Fel's green eyes kind of flick past the vixen to you, Eli, and then back to the vixen. Then let us rest here. There are rooms here. Let us rest. Let us bandage our wounds before we just go marching off into who knows what.
The vixen pauses, but she nods. You have a heart of a warrior, I can see. Perhaps a leader someday. But you have to pick and choose your enemies, Fel. You have to pick and choose who you burn bridges with, and who you control that temper at.
I don't think I'm being unreasonable.
No. Very well. I will send a message to the Lady Watcher telling that you will be delayed. You may rest here. We will make sure that no citizens get in once they catch word of what has happened. But we will be taking the young baronet and the baroness. We have some questions for them.
Fel sort of looks to Eli for a moment and then just slowly nods without saying anything.
1 hour. That's all we need.
Very well.
I mean, if you're able to give us more time, that would be welcome, but an hour is fine.
You are under no time scrutiny from myself. Whatever you decide, it is up to you.
Then maybe we should actually get a proper rest then, Eli, if we can. If we can.
Megan, is she implying that they're going to leave with the baroness, baronet, whatever, and then we're to go?
No. Oh, sorry. Go. Sorry.
I'm just trying to understand what she was saying. Is she saying that they're going to leave, or they're going to wait for us to rest and then escort us there?
So, I think so. They're going to take the baroness and the baronet away. but they are going to protect. Essentially, she's insinuating that she is protecting you guys from the city,
Okay.
from the people in the city. So it's probably going to be breaking off. There's quite a lot of people, more so than you had seen in that small room underneath the Blue Water Inn.
All right. So is she still standing right up in our faces, or rather at the end of my gun, or is she backing off?
No, she hasn't moved. She just kind of calmly, not aggressively or anything, just kind of calmly stands there.
You gonna let us rest in peace, or are you gonna breathe down our necks like this the whole time?
Are you going to take that gun from my head and that fire from my citizens, or are you going to stand here as well?
That's a fair point. And Fel will dismiss the fireball. Just kind of winks out of existence.
And I'll lower the righteous indignation, and I'm going to keep it at my side for the moment, though. I'm not holstering it.
She nods. Very good. Meanwhile, some of my other associates will look into what is going on with your, well, the things that aren't you, that pretended to be you.
Did you happen to find the item that Lady Watcher may or may not have that we requested? Since we held up our part of the bargain, she looks towards the Baron's corpse for a moment and then immediately looks away.
Unfortunately, we were in talks, in discussion. The Lady Watcher had discovered us, and we were in discussion as the chaos started outside. She saved my life, and so now I am indebted to her.
All right, let us tend to our
Wounds.
our
Yes.
wounds, and we'll let you know when we're ready.
Very well. Peter here, and she is going to, that kind of raven-haired with the feathers in his hair, that the boy that had delivered, or I guess not really, he's a teenager, he had delivered to you the boxes of the clothes. He comes up, whatever you need from the city, he will fetch it for you.
Would he be able to get our items from the church if that place is no longer a haven to us?
Yes, I believe so.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to fetch my rucksack. Now, it's not a normal rucksack; it's actually a wooden chest.
Why do I feel like you say that more often than you should? Anyway.
Hey, I didn't even say it last time. Somebody else.
I know. Got to keep tradition, man. Anyway.
I
Also, wine, if you can, just any wine you can bring from the Blue Water Inn would be very welcome for, the cleansing of wounds and everything.
Right. Of course. He will fetch that for you, and he will be back. And I will also be back when he comes to fetch. Just send him to fetch me, and I will come and escort you to the Lady Watcher when you are ready.
Thank you, I suppose. Even though you didn't uphold your side of the bargain, thank you for this, at least.
Well, I can't say that I am sorry, because things got a little bit derailed unexpectedly.
Barovia is a place of lies and illusions, and she kind of looks over at this person that, or did they already take the prisoners out, or are they still in the room?
They're still in the room, and you do, in fact, still see Strahd just kind of sitting there, and I would imagine right now he's kind of leaned back a little bit, and he's eating grapes. He's just kind of picking one, throwing it in his mouth. He looks like he is just absolutely enjoying this whole spectacle that is going on.
And Fel will just shake her head, and I imagine she just kind of like shoots him the bird, but her hand is like visibly shaking as she does, and she just stomps off to find a room, leaving this area and tending to her wounds.
the second Fell turns away, I'm immediately. Well, I'll wait till we're out of sight if we go down a hallway or something. And immediately I'm at your side. Are you all right?
No, of course I'm not fucking all right. Do you have any idea how much it took for me to not just start freaking out in there? And you see she's like visibly shaking and sweating as she kind of staggers towards the door and kind of pushes into whatever room. It could be a kitchen, it could be a bedroom, it could be whatever. She doesn't care at this point. And she just sort of sinks down against the wall, just sort of just letting the shaking overtake her as she just breathes deeply and trying to calm herself down from all of the violence and bloodshed and insanity she just witnessed.
I had all I could do not to rush to help you right away, but I didn't want to undermine your position in there.
I mean, not much of a position, but at least we have some time. I just that was really bad. I feel like that went really. I mean, it could have gone worse, I suppose, but
not much.
No.
I understand you want to get as much rest as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we can spare much more than an hour.
I mean, we're going to see Lady Watcher. I mean, this is terrible. I mean, this seems, if this already seemed like a trap, this seems like a worse trap because we kind of looked around. Is there anybody else around? Have Jean and Corla come in, or are you all still out there with the Vixen folks?
I feel like Jean's gone to a place that she can kind of wash her dress from all the blood that's been staining
Lots of that.
Yeah, lots of blood. Yeah, so she's probably gone off to like a wash room to wash her dress.
Corla?
I think Corla would have followed Jean.
Okay.
To do the same thing.
I mean, this seems like another trap. I mean, we killed her sons. I mean, this is not going to end well either way.
The fact that supposedly they're working with or for the Lady Watcher, and they came in here and didn't just immediately lay into us, especially with the evidence they threw at our feet.
Yes, that was a little jarring. Bet you never thought you'd see your own head on the ground.
Yes, it was jarring, and no, I didn't. It's not exactly something I was hoping to see, but the point is, if things are as bad as they're saying they are, and I find little reason not to believe them, then the longer we wait, the worse things are going to get.
That's fair. I just need a moment, you know. I need and you see she's like sort of clenching and unclenching her hands, which I imagine still have Corla's blood on them from where she was sort of staunching her wounds. I just need a moment to just, I don't even know. But yes, you're right. We probably shouldn't delay too much longer.
Well, we'll get you cleaned up and tend to your wounds. And I keep trying to reach for supplies that aren't there because we're wearing these fancy dress clothes and I don't have my rucksack and I don't have my water skin. And there's this just sudden frustration as where is that damn boy with our stuff?
I mean, it's going to take him some time. Just don't shout. And I imagine she kind of looks around. Maybe, you know, there's like a bucket or a pail or something nearby. And she just says, maybe turn the other way for a moment. And she just throws up into this bucket, just completely just letting loose for just this moment after all this horrible carnage. And after she finishes, she just kind of wipes her mouth and she sets the bucket far away and goes back to sit next to Eli. Sorry about that. Just still not used to all that blood. Oh. Hopefully he brings the wine soon. But anyway, where did John and Corla go?
That's a good question.
I think it was a little odd that what did they say? That Corla vouched for us? Does that mean she's...
Look, I'm not even going to pretend to understand what's going on here.
Between the doppelgangers and this,
my ability to comprehend sort of went out the window when my head hit the floor.
Right.
We should go find them.
Are you are you doing all right? I mean,
Yeah, this most of this is in my blood.
I was going to say you seem to be, taking care of yourself pretty well in there.
I do all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's go find them. Maybe we can come up with some kind of rudimentary plan, but knowing what's going to happen, well, not knowing what's going to happen, I'm sure it'll all be for naught anyway. But we can certainly try. And she'll get up. Let's go and see if we can find them.
I think you finding. You probably hear Jean before you see her. That's the last time I wear a dress, and she's like furiously scrubbing out now stained pink her dress from the red of the blood.
I mean, you looked good in it, John, for what it's worth, even though you kept fiddling with it.
And just Jean will like shoot you a look as he came up from behind.
We need to have some kind of conversation about how we're going to deal with this, or how we're going to try to deal with this, since we are being delivered into the hands of another potential enemy.
This is quite bad.
It is quite bad. Not to mention this doppelganger nonsense or whatever it was, and she'll look at the others. Did any of you? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just the stress of the battle, or just how badly things went as far as going sideways is concerned. Did anyone else see Strahd among those prisoners that the Baron had?
You saw him too?
She looks at John. I did. It was Stanimir and Greta and him. Did you two see that, Corla, Eli?
No.
I
did
saw Greta and I saw Stanimir. And I saw a man.
Who is the devil, yes?
No, not Strahd. No.
And
It was
Jean looks
just-
very confused at this.
Hmm.
She goes a bit more like an introspective confusion rather than an outward, visible, angry confusion. But she'll turn to you, felt that you saw him too, right?
I did. I mean, I will admit it was a little odd to see him there. I can't imagine a man like the Baron of Vallaki capturing Strahd. I mean, if he could have done that, why wouldn't he have done it already? It doesn't make any sense. It was very jarring to see him, but I told the Baron what I saw, and he clearly didn't see it either. I said the devil is there, and he freaked out, as he is wont to do, apparently, or as he was wont to do.
It must have been trick of light or something, because
It wasn't a trick of the light.
it
seemed
had to have been,
pretty
Couldn't have
because
been.
if the Baron, if it was him, and it wasn't because I saw the man, if it had been Strahd, the Baron would have,
Killed him, or tried to.
well, he wouldn't have been so joyful. Let's put it that way.
If it was a trick of the light, we would not have seen the same thing.
I mean, it could be magic of some kind. I mean, there's a
Or
whole
it's
school
such-
of magic, illusion, enchantment.
It could just be too that you are under stress and strain and you just see things.
Corla,
What?
did you not see my head lying on the floor in that room?
Yes, that is much more disturbing. That
My
was
point
real.
is,
That's fair.
we all saw that.
Mhm.
Strange things are happening. So if Fel and Sean are seeing this devil Strahd where we cannot, I'm inclined to believe that's what they actually saw.
I mean, it might be what
I'm
we
not going to
saw,
question them.
but it doesn't mean it is him or it was him. But
That's beside the point. I'll tell you this. There's a lot going on.
mhm,
It's getting worse,
it is.
and it ain't going to get no better if we're just sitting here flapping our jaws. We need to get you fixed up. We'll rest up.
I need my damn armor. That's what I need.
Well,
Sure.
hopefully,
She's just like fed up with trying to get the blood out.
hopefully Peter is on his way with our belongings from the church. I'm actually slightly more concerned about what happened at the church. I mean, that's been the one safe place we've always been able to return to, and if that's not available anymore, what are we going to do?
Is there any truly safe places in this place?
I mean, Father Petrovich has been good to us. He hasn't. I mean, she'll look to you like he hasn't lied to you as far as you know, right? He's been honest with you. He's been decent to us.
Do I need to remind you about the veil? Wasn't that at the church?
Mm-hmm. No, that's a fair point. But I mean, did he seem like he was under any kind of influence to you? You used to be a priest.
Look, I gave up any notion of truly understanding what's going on in this place quite a while ago. I stand by. As soon as that boy gets back here with our stuff, we suit up, we rest up just enough that we're ready. And already during this conversation, I pop open the pepper box and I pull out the 6 mundane rounds that are in there and replace them with 6 silver bullets. Because I had put the 10 silver bullets in my pocket along with the other rounds that I brought. And just in case.
It's a wise precaution.
And if there's any of these folks around from the Golden Wolf Society or whatever, I'm not even trying to hide it.
I don't think there would be in the area where you are. Yeah.
All right. Well,
So while we're waiting, how are we trying to play this? Are we just going to go in there and, like you said before, Eli, though I still think this is a terrible idea, just admit to what we did from the get-go, take that particular arrow from her quiver, or what are we doing?
I already staked our reputation as being truthful.
Fair.
We don't have any reason to lie to this Lady Watcher. Chances are, as I said, she already knows what's what.
She
And
probably
already-
knows her son's best.
True.
As Jean kind of wrings her hand on the washcloth.
I think it will be probably most obvious whether she knows or not the moment we see her.
Fair. So we're just gonna go in there and hope for the best, or I mean,
I will say this.
Hmm?
While we will stand by and own up to what it was that we did, it doesn't mean we got to walk in that front door saying, excuse me, we're the ones that killed your sons.
right? No, obviously not.
And we're not going
Let's
to be
hear
walking
what-
through those doors in goddamn dresses.
You have,
Yeah.
you have a real problem with dresses, Jean.
Yeah, I think at that, like, Corla has already stripped from the dress. I mean, it was already in tatters anyway from the wound she'd been taken. But unlike the rest of you, she was able to hide her leathers underneath it. So she is actually still fully dressed and outfitted and just
So
kind
tacky. So tacky.
Yeah.
Which of the two of Fel and John are the bloodier?
Probably fell.
Well, so Jean is literally covered in blood that she's trying to wash off. Most of it's not her own because of a little thing that happened last session. But Corlo got beat up.
When did Jean drink blood last session? I saw it in the chat. When did she do
It
that?
was like at the very end.
Yep. When she
Huh.
killed
Okay. I missed
the
that.
the
Yeah.
guards. Yep.
Oh, got it. Cool. Just curious. Anyway, hopefully Peter comes back soon with our belongings. Fella kind of looks at this like large gash in her left arm, and she kind of looks around for like anything to just kind of bandage herself up with.
I think at that, I would, since we're waiting for the stuff, I would already have taken off my jacket and started ripping off the sleeves and kind of tearing this jacket up into bandages.
Such a nice jacket, Eli. You actually look pretty decent in it. But thank you.
Well, just keep in mind as he's pulled off his jacket, he's got these suspenders and he's rolled his sleeves up, and
That's why
He's got
that's why
that-
the jacket
he's got-
was so nice.
he's got the
because it hit
tie.
all that.
he's got the tie that's sort of hanging open. He's got that that sort of rugged post party dwarf look going on.
So typical dwarf look then. I'm just kidding.
All right.
All of a sudden, it's like the end of Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
So Peter comes back. It takes about about an hour for him to come back.
All right.
And he has all your stuff.
We'll spend some hit dice.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll some hit die.
Something that he does say to whoever receives your equipment. I don't know who that would be. Actually, who would that be?
Probably me. I bet probably because I've got one of the biggest pieces of equipment and all that.
I mean, Sean's has some heavy breastplate that would be pretty heavy to carry, but
Man, this poor kid
But
has
I'm a
had to
dwarf.
carry
this poor kid.
has had to carry formal wear and then armor back. But he comes back, and as he gives you, he has like this cart that he's brought with him that has all of your belongings in it. And Eli, since you're the one who takes the items, he says, Father Lucian told me to tell you that a message. He forgives you. All of you.
I just give him a nod.
He would just nod again, maybe a bit kind of confused at that, and just kind of and when you don't give any more explanation or anything, he just kind of slowly backs away.
Well, you can help me with this stuff, and I ask him to help as I carry everything in and start distributing everybody's stuff. I'll carry Sean's breastplate and stuff, and then immediately, once we get everything in there, I'm opening up my chest, pulling out my armors, stripping down to my small clothes, putting my armor on, suiting up. Suit up montage.
Did Peter bring the wine?
He did. He bought a very
Excellent.
small cask of wine.
I think I still have my cask too.
Must be nice. But yeah, so Fel will kind of take that cask, just find like some small like cups or goblets or something, maybe even from, well, probably not the dining room because she's not going back in there with all those bodies. And she kind of pours a fairly hefty measure for herself and kind of looks at everyone else. Did you want some of this? Or anyone?
I'll pass. But thank you.
I'll take one.
All right.
Oh yes, I am very thirsty.
Just pour out some more glasses and she will just start slurping this down.
You taste that it is not just like typical Velaki wine, but you taste those familiar bursts of notes and flavors. This is Vistani wine.
Oh, interesting. So we'll kind of shoot a look over at Eli as she's drinking once he's taken a sip just to see if he recognizes it as well.
I would imagine not. I mean, if it's not ale, it's just a couple steps above piss for him. And he's a dwarf after all.
Uncultured.
And not a dwarf of refined taste, I might say. You can have your fancy grape water.
The best grape water.
I like my drinks made from bread.
Also, Fel and Jean, you would notice that Strahd is gone. If you would go into that room.
Yeah, I don't think Fel's going anywhere near that room until we absolutely have to.
You heard it. Strahd's gone. Campaign over. We win.
He's out.
He's out. Just a note. It's like, I'm going to Sword Coast. Bye.
Wait a minute.
All right. So, are
I
you
heard the
guys?
Sword Coast is nice this time of year.
Do you guys? Are you guys going to take a long rest or a small rest? A short rest.
I mean, if we could get away with a long rest, I mean, I know Eli's like, let's go now, but I'm like,
I mean,
I mean,
it is up to
it's
you.
up to y'all.
guys.
Anything longer than an hour, and Eli's getting a little antsy, unless everybody's pushing for it.
Oh,
Jean's not pushing for it. She seems.
Corla would be getting very antsy as well.
You two look super antsy. I guess that means you want to leave then, huh?
Telling you, the longer we let this thing go, the worse it's going to get.
And
She kind of
when
looks. Go ahead.
and when an enemy wishes to speak in parley, do not keep them wait. Is what Jean will say after finally getting her damn breastplate on.
And Fel will look at Eli for a moment and kind of narrow her eyes and just say, "Flow with the river, right?"
Flow with the river.
Ugh. All right, let's go. She kind of stands up. I imagine she's pretty heavily bandaged, especially her arm, and she's still drinking as much wine as she can before she leaves.
Well, yeah, and we got to send Peter after
The
what's
vixen.
her name?
He-
What was her name?
The vixen?
The vixen. For some reason, I was thinking Alexis.
Alexis
Where
the
I got
vixen,
that-
obviously.
I don't know where I got that.
So I would think that Peter's like, as soon as you guys get up, he's already heading out. And it takes almost too short of a time when you see the vixen striding in, and you see upon her face. Oh no. It's in the wrong overlay. Never mind. I had a picture. But she is wearing a mask. A mask looked to be made from silver, but you can't. But you cannot. Like, it's very silver in hue, and it has these jewels on it. She comes in. You are ready to depart.
As will ever be.
Very well. And she turns on her heels and she begins to stride out away. And if you follow, you would notice that you're kind of flanked by the other lycanthropes, almost flanking you in like a protection formation. Fel, I think you would recognize this as what this is from being a noble, and maybe when going to maybe some towns or touring or something with your father, and you know that the people don't like you there. This is what happens. So you would recognize this.
I imagine it's actually pretty typical for when she's out and about in Daggerford anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you go out into Vallaki, and it is quiet. Well, quiet for Vallaki. You still see the few merchants who are trying to maintain the level of happiness and joy and forced joy that you had seen when you first walked in. They play their musical instruments, they're calling out, selling things. There are still a few acrobats jumping and swinging and breathing fire, but it is not like the cacophony of sounds and smells that you had been assaulted with before every time you walked out. Some of the tents have even been closed down, and the people who look to you, you see that some have burns on them, some have these boils, these gross, like these grotesque rashes across their face and their arms. And they all kind of look to you with daggers in their eyes. It takes a while. You have to cross the entire town, but eventually you get to this large mansion, very similar, or house smaller than the Baron's, but not by much. And you see that the tent has already been taken down that was surrounding it, and you see that the walls behind it are still there. The mason are back. The masonry, the beautiful architecture is now no longer covered by the stripes of a tent. And as you walk into this front foyer, and the vixen just, wait here, I will tell the Lady Watcher of your arrival. The servants are busy. Something. And she kind of trails off, and she disappears. And Lady Fiona, the vixen knocks. You're in your study, and the vixen kind of knocks at your door. Excuse me, Lady Watcher. The four are here to see you.
Which four?
The ones you requested.
The right ones?
Yes. We hope so.
Why the delay?
They insisted they said that they were injured.
You'd hear a desk chair slide back and the telltale sound of wood grinding against wood, the weight of the chair evident, and you hear soft footfalls make their way to the door, and she'll slowly open the door, and you first see her unnervingly dark eyes staring back at you with a pale blonde arched brow. I think it's time we have a conversation.
The vixen nods. Let us hope they are ready.
What do they have to say for themselves?
And the vixen would precede you, kind of going back down into the foyer, and you would all see the vixen, and behind her, a woman.
And you would see this rather slim and slight woman, more towards her later years than earlier years. Very pale skin, very pale blonde hair. It almost looks silver, piled atop her head. And her gown is a rich amethyst purple, yet oddly shot through with stripes of almost a bright lime green, sort of nodding to the circus-like atmosphere, but still keeping it dignified. And she carries herself confidently. And she looks to you with what almost seems like a broad smile upon her face as she comes down the stairs. The second her foot falls upon the landing, she reaches up and just deftly swipes across her face, and you realize that this smile is actually this bit of lace she's had across it. And as it falls away, you see this stern frown upon it instead of a broad smile. So you're the ones who've been creating the chaos as of late. Sit down. And she'll nod to a set of settees and chairs near a fireplace off a parlor just off the foyer. That wasn't a suggestion.
Right. So that's the tone of the conversation then. And Fell's going to move over to a chair and sit down.
One can listen. That leaves three.
Sean will follow suit, giving an attempt of a bow, towards the lady of the house, but knows full well to not lose eye contact here, as Jean values the integrity of her neck.
Yeah, and Corla also followed suit with Fel, giving a bow as well as she's crossing the room to the settee, but saying nothing.
Once the others have seated, I will also walk over and I'll set my ruck down next to one of the chairs, and I will sit. I imagine kind of more towards the front of the seat. If I have to, I'll put my ruck down so that my feet are on it. So I absolutely refuse to sit in front of this woman with my feet dangling. But that also allows me to have my holster that's on my hip now relatively near at hand, though I don't have my hand like resting on it or anything.
Once everyone's seated, she'll walk into the room deliberately and slowly, sort of taking each of you in. And then she'll sit in this high back wing chair of a very rich sapphire lined with a more gaudy gold. Again, you can tell this is more a nod towards the environment in which she lives than her own personal taste. Right. So it seems we need to have a conversation with each other. First things first. What is the status of the Baron? Is it official? Is what I hear true?
He is dead. Very much so.
Not one to resurface then?
If he does, I'll kill him again.
It's interesting. I had hoped to find out a little bit more about all of you, your stories, your goals. It appeared that we have perhaps some commonality. Did you know there's no word for a mother without her children? I'm a widow. Yes, that's a title. Were I to have died, they would have been orphans. And yet here I sit, less 2 children, and less a name. I find it interesting you're hoping I will pass along something to you, and yet you have taken 2 things from me. But perhaps there is a slim chance for you if you start to talk. And instead of having to send messengers, I will have to ask you the questions directly. But you better be sure that your answers are acceptable and ones that I don't have to question. I don't like having to question any more than I need to.
You'll get nothing but the truth from us.
What happened with your sons was regrettable, and that's putting it lightly. And for what it is worth, you have our condolences. It should never have happened.
I'd like to hear what did happen. How did it get to that point? Granted, I know my boys. I'd be a fool to sugarcoat them. They took more after their father than from me. But I would like to know the circumstances, especially when something of such value is at stake for the 4 of you.
If you don't mind my asking before we get any further into this, what exactly is it that you have?
The vixen and I have spoken about it.
The item. What is the item?
You'll find out later when I get more information. And she'll actually wave her hand, and you'll see this servant come in who must have been standing in a corner of the shadows that you didn't even notice. And they have a tray laden with food and drink, and they place it on a table in the center of the room. And she'll deliberately lean over and take a small slice of sugared bread and take a bite as she looks at all of you. Something tells me you might need some sustenance. I'm not uncivil nor unreasonable. But you must admit, I have the home advantage.
Very true.
So before you start questioning about what I'm going to maybe hand over, you need to present your case first.
I mean, to be fair,
No,
milady,
you need to present your case first.
But why would I present my case if I don't even know what you have? You can't have a bill of goods and then not actually have the good. You see what I mean? Even if you just tell us what it is, you don't have to show it to us. That'd be stupid. Just tell us what it is.
No, because you owe me 2 lives. Do you want to keep letting this one talk and piss me off, or would one of you else likes to step in and perhaps salvage this conversation?
Fair enough, I suppose.
The fact of the matter is, ma'am, while we were traveling through this city, after having left this establishment, we found ourselves being tailed by what we could only assume was somebody who meant us ill harm. We ducked into an alley and we waited for them to come after us. Admittedly, things escalated very rapidly, and the end result was that your sons did not last long against us. We are formidable opponents, as the Baron and those around him that now lie dead can attest, or rather, their bodies can. Whatever your son's intentions, they were not noble, or were not presented as noble. It is unfortunate for you that things ended the way they did. But I'm of the opinion that, well, they walked themselves before us and put themselves in that situation.
So it was the choices that they made for themselves that found them in the current state of non-existence. Let's put it that way.
As I said, whatever their intentions were, they were not presented as noble intentions. We acted as we thought was appropriate, and perhaps it was a little more, well, it was more than was necessary.
So you admit some fault then.
I admit that we were more powerful than your sons, and that is why they are now dead.
Well, let's face it, they were a pair of fops.
This would cause like a held back like little burst of laughter from Jean to bubble out.
I think at
before
that,
she like catches it like in the middle of her throat and stops it from coming out.
yeah, I think at that, Corla coughed a little bit to kind of hide the fact that she also had that kind of reaction.
In your opinion, we're rarely dealing with issues, demons, devils, creatures that bring nothing but bane and misfortune. Do you think my boys would have even stood a chance were they to step out into that reality?
The four of us here, next to the common citizens, are probably the least dangerous folk in this land. And your boys didn't stand up against us. No. They wouldn't have lasted much longer anyway, if they were going to carry on the way they were. Not in this place. I've seen monsters in my time. I've killed a few. And every time the sun turns around this place, well, as I can assume the sun does, as we've yet to see it, but every time the light grows and a new day comes, I find some other reason to be surprised. A little over an hour ago, I saw my own head lying on the floor.
Well, I bet that's a memory you're going to keep.
Indeed.
She'll narrow her eyes and sort of look at all of you. You say they acted dishonorably. Did you see potential monsters in them?
To be perfectly honest with you, I did not say that they acted dishonorably. I said they acted without noble intention.
You're splitting hairs.
As I said, this place, every time we turn around, something seems to be trying to kill us. Whether it's wolves on the path, whether it's a dinner host, or whether it's two men approaching us in an alley while we're wandering around this city that seems to force smiles upon everybody's face. And what is a disgusting parody of entertainment and circus. Yeah, we saw potential monsters and we reacted. Are you going to continue asking us the same questions, hoping to get a different answer? Or are we going to get to the point of this? Eli is getting visibly agitated.
Does it make you uncomfortable?
Everything about this place makes me uncomfortable.
Welcome to my life. I'm not serving you dinner. I'm serving you light fare. My boys are no saints. I already know that. Let's just say you have a slight silver lining to your situation, though a lot more work ahead of you. You've created a situation is one that made it so I don't have to get my hands dirty. But it's not exactly clean yet. Have you any idea these doppelgangers of yours, where they've come from, who they are?
Until a little over an hour ago, we didn't even know they existed.
I find that concerning.
You find it concerning. It was our faces on these things.
I wouldn't even want to imagine that. As you'd said, this town is a farce. In its worst form. You go through the motions. You go through the play of it all. For one man with his fanatical ideals, I won't lie, the idea of having this brought back to a more reasonable level of enjoyment and actual happiness may not be a bad thing. Enough of the why my boys are dead. I can't seem too surprised. What did bring you here, though? I am curious about that.
Answers, I would say. Jean would actually pipe up here. Though answers that eluded us and just brought more questions, it seems. She kind of shuffles in her chair a bit. At least that's why I came here to Valak.
It's a fair answer. Accurate.
Are you familiar with the Vistani?
Yes.
Perhaps you've heard of a fortune teller among them. Goes by the name Madame Ava.
Reputation precedes.
In coming to this region, we met up with this woman. She told our fortunes with cards. And upon these cards was a sign that seemed as though it might point towards you. And it would seem, if there is any credence to be held in what this fortune teller had to say, that you could be the key to arming us with something that will help us in our fight against this so-called devil Strahd.
She got all this from cards.
Apparently.
Or a web of connections, but she showed it to us with cards.
It is something of a talent. I've seen a few of those fortune tellers, and some tend to be absolutely full of shit. The others are eerily on the mark. Not having had a reading done by her personally, I can't exactly say which of the two she falls into.
I'm not exactly prone to listening to those kind of foretellings, but as I said, nothing's been ordinary of late. So I put a little bit more weight on that side of the scales. Let's just say I'm willing to suspend my disbelief a little bit.
It's also the only lead we have to a way out of here.
So you want to leave?
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
And you want to defeat the devil?
I look around at the others, particularly Sean and Corla.
We want to leave. Yeah, Sean will reiterate.
Leaving is our priority. And right now it seems as though the only way to do so may be to go through this Strahd.
You mentioned wanting to have actual happiness in this city, and to be honest with you, milady, I don't think such a thing is possible as long as Strahd is the lord of these lands. My father is a somewhat minor nobleman, and he once told me that a good man can still be a bad ruler, but Strahd, to be honest, from what we've seen, seems like both a bad man and a neglectful ruler, which is almost as bad as just being a bad ruler in general.
Like a negligent parent.
Correct.
Well, that fortune teller wasn't exactly off the mark. Though it's not necessarily a key.
How do you mean?
Well, if you would try to kill someone with a key, it would take a little bit more effort.
Depends on the key.
Skeleton key, those are usually very dull.
True.
Perhaps we can... Oh, I'm sure you're quite reluctant, considering your history.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps we can come to some sort of agreement. The fact that someone is going around mimicking others could look like anyone they wanted to, so it seems. And I find it concerning that even after death, they keep the form. Not exactly a entity I'd want to have floating around in such a time of unrest when our dearly departed Baron, who has guided us so wisely in the frivolity of the circus, is no longer with us. Perhaps we need to adjust our sails. Things didn't exactly go as planned on my end either.
How so?
I wasn't expecting my 2 boys to be killed.
Ah.
So if we were to track down and find these creatures, put an end to their madness that they're causing, that would be what you're asking, yes?
Yes, and to make it so that the transition between a baron and a new baroness is a little less tedious. And at the same time, recoup the damage to your own reputation. Prove that you are not those 4 bringing pestilence and illness upon the people. Prove that you have their interests at heart. Walk away from here more the heroes than new devils.
And how does this item you hold fit into this?
Should you need to do what you feel you need to do to leave, this will do it.
I hate to continue beating a dead horse, so to speak.
Would you like me to get the literal one for you?
No, thank you, milady. That sounds awful.
Everyone has their quirks. You never know.
Tilts her head to the side, narrows her eyes. So this sounds very reasonable. However, is this item a skeleton key of some kind? Is that what you're alluding to? This thing that you have?
No, I am speaking figuratively, not literally, just like you are with that horse.
Got you. Just making sure. Never be too careful here. So look, if we are going to do this, I don't know about the rest of you, and she'll look to the others. I am not comfortable making this arrangement until we know what this item is. And again, like I said before, you don't have to show it to us. I wouldn't expect you to. A brief description of it, that's all.
Perhaps it's a name.
That as well.
At this point, is the vixen still in the room?
The vixen has been kind of idling by the doorway. Kind of shoulder leaned, watching this watching what has been happening.
Perhaps you would like to tell them. You're far more knowledgeable in weaponry than I.
Yes. Well, we didn't exactly find. Well, we didn't exactly retrieve for you, Fel. What we figured out what it was.
All right, and what is it?
It has a name. The Sun Sword. That is said to bring light to even the darkest places and to fell. Sorry for the pun. Even the
Happens
most.
all the time.
Even the most fierce monsters.
And I think that Jean kind of almost alerts to this, because if I'm remembering correctly, this is one of the fortune that Eva gave, I believe, to Jean alone. Was the tale of the sword.
So, what Eva had said to you. So this card reading. You all got the same card. The one card reading you got was this card is of power and strength. It tells of a weapon of vengeance, a sword of sunlight. A woman hangs above a roaring fire. Find her, and you will find the treasure.
2 skeletons with a puppeteer.
Yes. So, but you are correct in that Madame Eva did tell you something, that your redemption. In your redemption, she sees sunlight.
Yeah, and that's what Jean will kind of perk up to. Hearing that not only is it a sword, it's a sword of the sun, it seems. I think that Jean almost speaks a bit too hastily here, perhaps going ahead of anyone else's wishes. She would say, consider it done then.
I'm more than happy to let you discuss this amongst yourselves.
That would be welcome. Though Jean is clearly very eager to help, as are we all, I suppose. But some time to discuss would be very welcome. Very much appreciated.
That is completely fair.
Pardon me, sorry. Yes, let us convene about this.
I'll give you some time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back to my study. She'll turn to the vixen. Notify me when they have come to a decision.
The vixen nods.
And she'll slowly stand up and just smooth out her skirts and walk away, turning her back fully to you, showing her trust in the matter as she makes her way back up the stairs. And you'll hear the soft click of a door as she closes the study's door.
Well, that went better than expected, no?
Considerably.
She reminds me of my aunt. Anyway, I suppose we should collaborate as far as this goes.
Before we do that, before you collaborate, I think this is a good time to take a quick break.
Collaborate before break, Megan.
Yeah.
Gotta collaborate during the break so no one can know our plans.
There you go. And then
Yeah,
we just
exactly.
pick up with the deal already made. It's
Come
good.
back after the break. Kate, we figured it out.
Yeah, we got we snuck into the sun sword room and yeeted out. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you so much to my players, and we will be right back in just a moment. we're back, and we haven't decided anything. So we figured we'd do it on camera right now. So, you have all been maybe kind of a little shell-shocked. I don't think you guys knew what was going to happen, but maybe this was not expected as you sit in this room to your own devices for now. Vixen leaning against the door frame, kind of looking at you all expectantly.
I don't suppose you could like give us a little bit of privacy. You know, we could just go up to this study door and maybe get you when we're ready. I mean, is that a thing? Is that possible? We're not going to go anywhere, obviously.
You're right, but sure. I will leave.
Thank
And
you.
She will like close. I imagine they're like these like sliding doors, and she closes them.
You're not very good with people, are you?
Are you talking
No,
to me
I'm not.
or Jean?
You, Phil.
I am very good with people. It's just unfortunately a lot has gone on this evening. Ugh.
They don't seem to like you very much.
Well, you know what? Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing because they're terrible people. Anyway, doesn't matter. So, a sword of sunlight, right? It does sound
Some
like it would
sword.
be useful. Okay. So, I will be honest. I am a little reluctant to make any more deals with anyone, really, period, in this place. But at the same time, Madame Ava's Taroka reading is really the only lead we have, and defeating Strahd is really the only lead we have. So,
Well,
Consider this, Fel. This is what it was 2 days ago, if my count is correct, where we were worried of having made a new enemy. We would have done anything then to have brokered peace. Now peace has been brokered.
has
It
it?
seems wise to go down this route of diplomacy, no?
No, I mean, I get that. It's just, when I
This is
said
what
she reminds
we
me of
wanted.
my aunt, it's not a compliment. It's not even like slightly a compliment. My aunt is a terrible, terrible woman. I don't know. Every time we've done something like this in the past, it's usually come back to bite us. I think the one time it didn't was when we were back in the village of Barovia and met certain people. Another thing, just to maybe keep this in mind, like I know we're trying to be honest and decent and everything. Maybe we try and keep some information a bit closer to the chest, just so we don't go spilling everything to everyone we meet. In case, I don't know, Strahd has spies around or something along those lines. Especially about, you know who.
I think, and I will continue to maintain this, that if we are as honest as possible, we are going to be more successful in our endeavors.
I'm not saying
Now-
we lie. I'm just saying we maybe withhold some things. We don't tell secrets that aren't ours to tell.
A lie by omission is still a lie.
True. But I also think we need to keep in mind that some of the honesty that we are so eagerly spreading might also result in other people being hurt by our actions. People that are not terrible people, but are decent people. It's a very small number of decent people that we've met, so I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
Well, at this point, I understand your hesitation about entering into deals, but
What choices do we have?
I think we're actually in a rare position of,
Power.
well, it's an advantageous position because this is a deal. Look at it this way. We're being told there's doppelgangers of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
roaming around this city. That means there's 4, well, three
30.
now of us still wandering around here. Whether you leave the Lady Watcher and her promise of this so-called Sun Sword out of the equation or not, the fact remains we're going to want to figure out what's going on with these doppelgangers and remove that threat.
True.
Was going to be my
Now
second
we're being
point.
offered a prize at the end of doing that anyway.
My thoughts
Seems
exactly.
to me this is in our best interest.
It's a monster hunting contract, basically, is what it sounds like. Right? Eli?
Except we're the monsters. Hey,
Well, the other doppelgangers are the monsters.
I never got any shiny sun swords for the monster hunting work I did, but
So
put food in my belly.
Imagine
Right.
the first
Ale
sword
in
you
my
get is a
tankard.
shiny one.
So So what is it exactly? I understand what you're all saying, and I'm inclined to agree, especially about removing these doppelgangers to ensure they don't cause any further trouble for us. In addition to the Sun Sword, the lady mentioned some other things. I guess a boost to our reputation, so to speak, or repairing our ruined reputations from what these things have done.
Well, that sounds like it's in our best interest to do it anyway.
Sounds
Otherwise,
like the
we have
natural
people-
consequence of having slain these.
True.
Exactly. Or we have mob on our back the entire time, which
Right.
does
Would
not
be
sound
bad.
very.
Right.
Yeah.
So I am wondering, and I know this is, maybe it's not necessary, maybe I'm just being paranoid, but something in writing, something, I mean, I know a slip of paper isn't going to compel anybody to really do anything, but something to try and ensure that this is not a deal that we get burned on the back end effectively. We can, my father always used to say, when you strip away the titles and the gold and everything else, all you have is your word. And I'm not sure that a person's word really means a whole lot here outside of this immediate group.
We need a witness then.
Which is perfect because we have the vixen still here and
True.
she could be the witness.
So, I mean, I could try and draft something up, some kind of contract, yes, something to, and again, she could easily rip this up and say no deal, but at least some kind of assurance in this place where there are no assurances.
If it would make you feel better, then do it.
I mean, am I being crazy? Like, we've been burned before. In fact, we've been burned almost every single time before.
It's crazy or no, it's like you say, she could just rip up. It's not much of an insurance, but if it makes you feel better, then do it. The word
Alright.
will be kept whether or not.
True. I mean, I am for it. It's just, I wish there was some way that we could have some guarantee that things will not blow up in our faces as they are wont to do here. But you're right. I don't think that's ever going to happen. So I will make my paper shield and hopefully it will account for something in the end.
If we had something of hers that we could perhaps bargain with. It seems, however, we've already paid our price.
I think we've already spent those bargaining chips.
We have.
Yes. I
We
mean,
cannot hang anything over her as the murderers of her sons. The fact that she is willing to have any kind of parley with us is showing her, I don't want to say generosity, but at least her civility.
and how do we feel about the fact that, from what it sounds like, she's potentially also wanting us to assist her in effectively rising to power? I thought the idea was that this Society of the Golden Wolf was going to be the ones that take over after the Baron's
That is
timely demise.
That would be between the two of them, I would say. They work it out.
I mean, to be honest, as much as I dislike her, I think she'd probably do a better job than the lycanthropes. But
Let's see. Not all bad.
no, of course not. It's just with all their safeguards and fail safes that the Society of the Golden Wolf members have, there is still a chance that they could embrace the beast within and just start murdering people. They could probably do more harm than our doppelgangers. So maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that we try to guide someone that is not so occult to a position of power, so to speak.
I left the Game of Thrones for a reason, and I do not wish to dabble back into those things.
I mean, it sounds like we might have to. Sounded like the deal was not just kill the doppelgangers, we get the sword, and that's great. It sounded like we kill the doppelgangers, we get the sword, our reputation is improved somewhat as a side effect, and then we assist her in potentially rising to power, whatever that may entail. How did you phrase it? Make it less tedious?
I think we've already paved the way for that, removing the Baron.
We've paved the way for somebody to take power. Sure, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be her.
Look,
We can have her believe it will be her, but again, the more we get our hands mixed in with the game, so to speak.
is there any situation in which we are not going to go after these doppelgangers? No.
Oh, no.
Is there any situation in which it doesn't benefit us to take up the Lady Watcher and do what we're already wanting to do and take this sword? And if she's the one that fills the power vacuum here, perhaps we leave an ally behind us, tenuous though that may be.
Tenuous though it may be.
At this point, we're just flapping our gums.
Sometimes flapping your gums is good, though, Eli, because it helps you work through problems instead of just, rushing towards the mushroom-infested boar corpse. Does that sound familiar?
Look,
There you
I'm
go
just
again,
saying.
keep
Phil.
flapping your gums as much as you need to. I'm going to keep eating this cheese and almonds.
The cheese is quite good, isn't it?
Mhm.
Is it good? Like, actually, or are you just... Is it good?
I imagine it's, there's a part of me that's hoping it's actually cheese.
I'm pretty sure this is cheese. It's got a good sharpness to it.
Like
Phil will take a little piece of cheese and just pop it into her mouth. Yeah, that's cheese. All right, that's actually pretty good.
I'm liking the sugared loaf. It satisfies.
Eli, you
Make a
You
con
die.
Eli, how many almonds do you eat? Oh my god, I had a whole bunch.
you begin to feel this thumping in your chest, as if your heart is beating way too quickly. Oh no. One moment. Technical difficulties.
So take your time. Let me get my heartbeat under control.
Yeah. Whoa. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I just had to switch my microphones. Anyway, so you hear this this beating in your chest, and you can't really. You kind of begin to feel this beating, and you can hear it. You begin to hear this like rhythmic. This rhythmic tapping, and then you realize it's not coming from your body, it's not coming from your heart, it's coming from your rucksack. That is actually a wooden chest.
I imagine I'm feeling it if my feet are sort of propped up on this thing, and I'm looking around at this point to see if anybody else can hear it or is noticing it.
None of you notice anything wrong or out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I'm gonna set down this piece of cheese I just picked up, and I'm going to slide off the chair, and I'm going to put one hand on the butt of my pepper box, And with the other hand, I'm going to undo the latches on the chest and lift the lid.
What is it, Eli?
What are you doing?
What's going on?
Eli, you might have not have noticed it before because you were quickly trying to get ready. The interaction with Lady Watcher so on your mind, but now you see it, or the lack of the Blinksy toys in your chest, and the addition of 3 boxes.
Are they moving?
They're not moving, but emanating from them is this soft beating hum that almost to you sounds like a beating heart.
I will open the lid further. And these boxes look like the other boxes?
Absolutely. Except
And do they
these
have
ones,
names on them?
yes, they have Fel, Corla, and Jean integrated into the wood carving, the etching of the wood on the lid. And you see the Eli one is still there along with the Everchild one.
But the Blinksy toys are gone?
The Blinksy toys are gone.
All right, I just got to modify this. I'm going to close the chest.
Everything all right?
Not here.
Okay. Sure. Does anyone have a piece of parchment and some ink?
I should have something.
Okay. I'm going to write this up, and then I guess unless there's anything else that we need to talk about, I guess we will do this thing.
I wanted to say the sword. Madam Ava told me of the sword.
Oh.
When I talked with her alone. But she didn't speak of the sword itself, but I think she said that it would help cure my curse.
Oh.
And so I had acted.
That explains
rashly.
why you were so eager.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Apologies for acting so rash, but I imagine if you had this thing in your chest, you would probably act in a similar fashion.
That's fair. Actually, thinking about it, I think it was the I guess actually it was this past evening. I had a dream involving the Golden Wolf, Carla. It was in the Baron's dining hall, the statue in the dining hall. I think there might be something. Well, there might be something underneath it potentially. I'm not entirely sure what. But it led me down there. I think I know how to move it. I saw ruined battlements and trees growing. It was very confusing. And she lowers her voice a little bit, kind of wringing her hands. And at the end, I saw a coffin with my father's corpse inside, and started screaming at me. And I didn't get much sleep. But I don't know. I know you. I mean, we all saw the Golden Wolf, but I know you had a bit more experience with it. I know she kind of looks over her shoulder in the direction of the sliding door. I know the Vixen had asked about it when we first met her, about the color of the eyes. Might be something to kind of keep in our back pocket, I suppose.
That sounds disturbing for you.
It was very disturbing.
But something tells me we should listen to it.
I mean, Sure. I suppose we're going to need time to find these doppelgangers. So maybe we could ask that we be. We're going to. I guess we're going to need to find another place to stay after apparently something happened in the church.
Yeah, I still would love to know what has happened in town. Like,
We could certainly ask. I'm just saying maybe we can ask the vixen if we can borrow some of her guards. We definitely shouldn't go out by ourselves, I don't think, unless we want to fight the whole town.
yeah, we need to know what we're walking into for sure.
Those could also be questions for the Lady Watcher. If she's asking us to dispatch them, she may have some ideas or resources.
That's true. All right. Let me write this thing, and Fel will just write like a. She's not a lawyer, or anything, but she writes this very simple sort of contract, just basically stipulating that in exchange for the defeat of the doppelgangers, that we would gain possession of the Sun Sword. Two, I guess we would be given. I don't know, I don't want to say an escort because that sounds terrible, but like guards of some kind to make sure that while we are exploring the city to find these things, that we have some kind of protection from the mob. And I guess the only other thing is any further discussion as far as like assisting the lady in a rise to power would be discussed after we had dealt with the doppelgangers. And unless there's anything else anybody wants to add. Cool. All right. That's it.
Okay. I think at around this time, too, you kind of hear a voice from the outside of the room. Have you finished with your conversation?
I think so. Actually, before you get the Lady Watcher, just a quick question, the Vixen. You were asking Carla before about this golden wolf, which I think you said you suspected was some other kind of creature. Is that correct?
Yes, we think that it is some sort of another vampire.
And you were very interested in the color of its eyes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why is that, if you don't mind me asking?
You will notice something, and you may look next time you inevitably run into them. The eye color of Strahd's wolves is always yellow.
Mm-hmm.
It's just rather odd. And we have
Sure.
not seen another wolf that does not have these yellow eyes, that does not have and there's not, well, it has been a very long time since we have seen a natural wolf in these parts.
But you don't. Go ahead.
Even the lycanthrope, the lycanthrope, they have how do you say a red?
But you suspect that this golden wolf is not a natural wolf, correct?
No, there have been reports from some of our spies that they have seen him shift into an elf.
Oh. Into an elf?
Yes.
What kind of elf could your spies tell? High elf? Wood elf? Sea elf? Dark elf?
His skin,
gray elf?
We don't get many different races here. You three, you two, are some of the most unique races we will see in a very long while, for a very long time. He had yellow skin, golden hair.
Would Fel, from her readings and whatnot, have heard of any kind of golden elves before?
Yes, absolutely. You have actually even probably seen this type of elf. They're not common, but they're not too rare. They're sun elves.
Sun elves, okay.
Yes. Or some call them sun elves, some call them high elves, some call them...
Gotcha.
They have many names, yeah.
Gotcha. Sounds like a high elf. Interesting. All right, I was just curious. Yes, if you want to get the lady, we are ready to talk, I think.
She
Should probably
nods.
tell her to bring a pen if she can.
She nods, and a few minutes later, I assume that the Lady Watcher comes.
So you have come to a decision then.
We have. And she'll sort of slide the contract across the table. We will agree to the terms listed in this contract if you are willing to abide by them as well. And as far as assisting you beyond the doppelganger situation, if it is acceptable, we will discuss that after they are dealt with. We need to put the cart before the horse, so to speak.
All right.
And we'll have the vixen here as witness to the signing of the contract.
Of course. Let me read through what you have down.
All right.
And she'll pull out a pair of reading glasses from this little pocket on the side and carefully perch them on her nose. And she leans back in the same chair and she's reading through it. Personal escorts.
Some guards to keep us safe from the mob. We won't be able to do our job if we're being attacked by townsfolk.
Of course. Vixen.
Yes.
Would you be fine helping them out?
Yes, of course.
Excellent. You see, we have an agreement with each other as it is. The
Good to know.
lycanthropes have some advantageous attributes. And let's see here. Well, quite frankly, you get rid of the doppelgangers, and that in and of itself should help.
Of course.
Right. So we all sign this. I'm going to sign as well.
If you don't mind. It's usually
Wonderful.
how a contract works.
I shall start, and you can sign last since you were the one to create, and then Vixen will sign as witness. And
We appreciate it.
She'll pull out a small little fountain pen from a pocket on the side and place it on the table after sort of nudging away a couple bits of plates. And she'll sign with a flourish her own name, and she scoots it over to Jean first. My dear, you can use my pen.
And she will, with a stunning amount of calligraphy, even though she's presented herself as a warrior, she has quite a good calligraphy for her own name as well, for Jean. And she'll pass it along.
I imagine Eli's signature is a couple of quick lines, and probably press the nib a little too hard and caused a blotch of ink, as he's not used to a fancy fountain pen. And sort of apologetically passes the pen, now with ink on his fingers, over.
Corla just looks at it, tries to not get the ink that's left on the pen on herself, and scrawls her name. It's neat, not anything like what Jean has done, but definitely legible, as if Corla has actual writing skills as well. And then she passes pen to Fel.
It's all in the wrist, Eli. It's all in the wrist, and she does not an especially decorative or embellished signature, but it is a very nice signature. Definitely the signature of someone that has had years of tutoring and writing in noble calligraphy. Right, and I guess Vixen, you should sign as well, just to state that you are witnessing this and that the contract is. To look over to you, Lady Watcher, binding, as much as such things can be binding.
The vixen comes forward and she signs her name, and anyone who's looking at the piece of paper would see that she does not sign the vixen, but she signs a name. Maeve Winterhold.
Oh.
Excellent. Maeve, if you could hand it to me, please.
She does so.
And she looks it over and sort of waves a little bit and then rolls it up into a nice little tight tube, and she walks over to the fireplace where there is a rather large hourglass standing. So the sands are at the bottom, and she removes it from the mantelpiece. And you see she definitely pricks her finger on the side where there is a little sharp point and places her hand on top, allowing the drop of blood to fall into this little signet. And the lid loosens itself. And she sticks the contract into this hourglass. And it fits perfectly down through the top, into the bottom, through the tube. And she closes it. Right, well, to ensure this gets done in a timely fashion, and to make sure you get this sword, you have exactly, as of now, 3 days' time to accomplish it. And she turns it over and places it on top of the mantle. And no one can get that contract out but me. You didn't think I was actually going to send you out to do something that was purely advantageous to yourself and let you take your time about it, did you?
I had hoped.
No. Time is of the essence.
Of course. Do you or the Vixen have any leads as far as where these other doppelgangers were last seen? Since you dealt with the Eli one, it seems.
We have one lead. And this is why I said that it wasn't the best idea to go back to the church. It has been locked. No one is allowed in, no one is allowed out. The priests, the monks, have locked it.
All right. Have you had any communication with Father Petrovich at all?
I sent Peter, as you know, to get your belongings, and he was able to get them because of his, because he can shift into a small raven. He was able to get the cart and able to... he is quite talented for a young boy, but he did not tell me anything. He said he did not see any of the monks or the priests.
All right.
As for, he did, however, I will say this, he did see you fell. Your...
doppelganger. Got it.
As for the other two, we have not been able to find them.
Are there any passages similar to the passage in the Blue Water Inn? Are there any passages that either of you are aware of that lead into the church? Underground tunnels, burrows, anything like that?
One that has been sealed for a very, very long time. But unfortunately, it is rumored to have been filled. But we might be able to get through. Unfortunately, it leads into the sanctuary. She looks to Eli. I am sure you are very familiar with what lies in there.
Yeah. There's nothing going to be easy about this.
What exactly should we be expecting apart from my doppelganger, apparently? What's in the sanctuary? Actually, did Eli tell us about the cloth?
I don't know.
I feel like you might have. I'm not entirely sure, though. You should tell us now.
Well, okay, so I don't remember if I told you, But I do know that I would not say anything to you in front of the Lady Watcher.
Okay, that makes sense. So any idea what we should be expecting in there then? Apart from something horrible, I'm sure it'll be horrible because it always is here.
We're going to need to figure out, we need to stage somewhere.
Right.
We got 3 days, and moving around this town unmolested is not going to be an easy task.
Could we perhaps hole up in the Baron's house? I mean, I'm assuming the Society of the Golden Wolf, whatever, is going to be protecting that place, making sure it doesn't get completely ransacked and destroyed, but...
I believe you should probably ask the new Baroness.
Soon to be Baroness, but that's a fair point.
Well, I was going to offer to let you stay here, but if you want to split hairs about who is taking over, perhaps the stables might work. For you.
Just like my damn aunt.
Just like my damn niece. You, my dear?
Wow.
It
All
would
right.
behoove you to keep your mouth shut at times. I am fine with the four of you staying here and helping you to the best of our abilities. And she looks to the vixen. All I said was time is of the essence. Don't make everything a battle.
Would we be able to have access to the Baron's household if it might provide items that could help us in our search? Potions, weapons, something like that. Before it gets completely ransacked by looters or whatever. Is that possible?
What is the state of his house? Do we know?
No, no protesters yet. I assume there will be pushback soon from other nobles.
Of course,
you know.
There always is. Right. Then you best make your way over there and get what you feel is necessary.
Thank you.
You do know civility.
Sometimes.
You are welcome.
Right. And she'll look to the others. Is there anything else, or shall we go?
Time is of the essence. You best be going.
Well, we know where we need to go.
Right. All right.
Hey, what time of day is it?
Late
It's
evening.
late past supper.
Yeah,
'cause we already
late
had
evening.
dinner.
So we're probably going to be best to rest up and go at this fresh in the morning.
After people have used the cover of night to get what they need from that place?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Unless, Vixen, do you think you can keep people out? You and your men? People?
Or we can go there and rest. If you're intent on going to the Baron's place.
I'm just saying before it gets ransacked.
Let's do Baron's place first before we lose opportunity.
That is fine with me.
I would also suggest that this power struggle is something that we haven't seen in many, many years. And so it's hard to know how people are going to react. Imagine being held down on your chest, a weight. For so many years you've gotten used to the weight, you don't even know that it's there. You've been walking with it, you live with it, and then all of a sudden the weight is lifted.
Do you think this is enough to bring Strahd here, the actual Strahd?
Not if you hurry.
Right.
I don't believe he has ever left.
What do you mean?
Do you really think that the Baron's soiree really did anything to keep...
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, do you think this power struggle, because you're right, this clearly has not happened for some time, is it enough to bring him from wherever he is to Vallaki? To influence what's going on?
It is hard to know the mind of something such as that.
All right. Well, then we should get moving then.
The vixen bows down to the lady. Lady? We will be back momentarily.
Best of luck to all of you.
Before we leave, just kind of in these last few moments while there was a little bit of conversation going on, I've reached into one of my pockets and I have pulled out the prayer book of Shantea, the one with the singed edges. And I take out that little pencil and I write in the margins on a new page, Nikolai and Carl, Lady Watcher's sons' names. But I do not write the Baron's name.
And so, do you all leave to head out towards the Barrens?
Yeah. Fel will actually curtsy to the lady, unlike the way she did when she entered. Thank you again, Lady Watcher.
You're welcome. Make sure one of you is always looking behind you.
Oh, I'm sure we all will be, or most of us will be.
And as you walk out, I think that is a perfect place to end tonight's session.
A perfect place to roll for initiative.
And then a
You step
dragon
outside the
shows up.
door. Yeah, the Lady Watcher says you should always be watching your back. We all turn to leave, and she attacks.
Didn't you know my sister's name is Lady Vintage?
Bronebringers.
You had to see that coming.
Oh, that was so good. Such an amazing session. Thank you so much to amazing players. As always, you guys killed it. Well, actually, you didn't kill anything.
No.
So, you know.
I'm thinking not killing something is
That was last
killing it.
session.
Yeah. And thank you once again to V for playing the Lady Watcher. You did a fantastic job. Thank you so much.
Go.
And so that means that our next session will be on March 3rd. So we'll see you all then. Thank you everyone who is watching in the present and whoever watches later on. And I hope you have a wonderful night.